No time for an intro. This spring, I got an unsolicited letter from George Corley, the host of the Conlang Relay podcast. I think it might have been printed in blood. It's got a passage, a small glossary, a description of the grammar, and, for some unknown reason, a disclaimer of some kind. Oh, and a drawing of me screaming in agony. Well, isn't that nice? Now, this letter and the contents within seemed to be of utmost importance. The text here says that this letter urgently needed to be decoded and sent on to the next person, some strange fellow for whom I merely got an image and not a name, and whom speaks only a language called Obligatian. What's Obligation, you ask? Why, it's my very own invented language. I made it with my own two brains. The name of the language isn't a typo, by the way. It's meant to be sort of like Haitian or Alsatian or Dalmatian or Illumination. I was very surprised to receive this request, though, because Obligation didn't even exist yet. In fact, I invented Obligation while I was translating this. Okay, that's not entirely true. Yes, I invented this version, but Obligation is just a highly simplified version of another unfinished project that has an actual name, Chlefnuk, but was too much effort to explain to the next person. My professionalism knows no bounds. Like any real professional, I set to work on translating this into English first. However, I quickly came across a problem. Like, the kind of problem so serious that it has to be mentioned before I even start explaining the process of translating it. That problem, of course, is that I'm usually only about half as on top of things as I think I am. In this case, I don't know how to do translation and have basically never done it before, but, I just assumed it would be fine because, Well, anyway, despite supposedly getting a pretty coherent text, this task wasn't so much a breeze as it was a hurricane for me. These 5 sentences, written in a constructed language called Ndagaka, were written by the previously mentioned George Corley. I'm not reading the text aloud, but I'll leave it on screen for a second while I explain some things. I tend to make these videos whilst imagining that I'm talking to some uninitiated fools, such as my dearest friends and loved ones. These fools may not know what a conlang is, assuming they've managed to tune out literally all of my rambling over the years. Which, congrats to them. I wish I could tune myself out. Anyway, if you don't know, a conlang is a constructed language, intentionally invented by one or a few people. Some folks are so incredibly awesome and creative that we decided to harness our boundless potential into making spreadsheets full of pointless made-up words. Or, sometimes we make fancy new pieces of software just so that we can create a whole bunch more pointless made-up words. It's a grand tradition, following in the steps of Tolkien, Peterson, or sometimes if you're feeling really silly, Dr. Seuss. If that sounds incredibly boring to you, then you're never going to get it. You're a lost cause. But you should still watch the video anyway, because I like it when the number goes up. Okay, back to our misleading narrative. I was dismayed to find that Google Translate didn't have Ndagaka as an option. That meant I had to do actual work. The first thing I did was attempt to create a glossing. For those of you not in the know, a glossing is essentially a breakdown of the morphemes in a sentence in the order in which they naturally occur in the language being glossed. If I had any more time, I'd break down all of my breakdowns, but right now I actually have a time limit, and making my video too long might be a faux pas. Not to mention, I'm actually quite bad at glossing. One of my best friends, who goes to college for linguistics, told me this gave them an aneurysm. I'm kind of overjoyed by this, though, because it means that both the people who know what I'm talking about and the people who don't will be getting aneurysms from this video. I strive to be generous even when giving out life-threatening conditions. My terrible glossing shouldn't matter too much in reality. It'll function the same as a good one. The important part is that with this list of words and this list of grammary doodads, I have a general idea for what each morpheme looks like, even when smushed together. But it's still confusing to have them smushed together, so I unsmushed it. Then I defined what each morpheme meant. I ended up with this. The periods indicate the boundaries of 2 morphemes that are contained within a single word. The spaces between 2 words indicate the spaces between 2 words. This is actually not the format you're supposed to use for glossing, but it's how I did it because I didn't know the actual format at the time. Most of these morphemes have a direct correspondence with one of the associated words or grammary doodads in the previously mentioned lists, which is how I'm able to get this glossing. There is, however, one pesky morpheme I can't figure out, and for now that's going to be a question mark, but I'm going to turn the question mark upside down because I think that would be funny. Or I could make it into an exclamation mark. Or a PNG of an opossum! We're going places with this. This project is going to stop being easy here. Now I have to turn this into something that makes even the faintest bit of sense to an English speaker like you or me. I won't be breaking down this entire text since we have such limited time, but I'll fully walk you through these first two clauses, and then mention a couple of the things that caused confusion later on. To begin with, I highlighted the subject and the object of the sentence. Then I turned this complicated verb into the analogous English version. The highlight parts on the verb indicate what the suffix and prefix are indicating, that being also the subject and object of the sentence. However, my first translation difficulty appeared here. This suffix says irrealis, but I had no idea what that was supposed to mean in this context. There are lots of types of irrealis moods, and the whole concept is complicated and hard for me to understand as someone who mostly just conlangs as a fun distraction from the 8 billion other things I need to be doing. Grammar is really weird anyway, and if you want to actually understand it deeply, you probably have to subject yourself to more headaches than I'm willing to undergo. I translated the irrealis mood to meaning something like it would give at first, but then I ended up interpreting that as indicating a universal truth, like a gnomic marker in my translation, which for the record is distinctly not irrealis. It's about as realis as it gets, maybe. There were so many ways I could have taken it, and I chose the one that was perhaps the most wrong. After the relay had finally finished, and when writing the script for this video, I had my previously mentioned friend look over it and say that their interpretation of this was that irrealis meant a passive voice, but since that's not actually how I translated it, it's not super important to explain what that is. Just know that my friend is better than me at all of this, so they're probably close to being right. This tiny little hiccup aside, since what we think of as prepositions, like to, are postpositions in this language, we know that this is attached to the word spider. In addition, I simplified the nouns to what they would be in English. I then reordered it so that it resembled English sentence order. And it was here that I decided to try and intuit the rest of what this meant based on vibes alone. I ended up doing this for every single sentence. Some of them I think I figured out. This one, I'm absolutely certain I screwed up. You see, I somehow misread this as this, or something similar, because I took it to be some weird third noun in the sentence. As such, my vibes reading decided that the spider by necessity had to be the thing doing the giving, and all had to be the recipient. I even moved the to in front of the all to make it make more sense to me. Trying to shape the world to fit my vision isn't generally considered a good idea or scientific. Unfortunately, by the time I started writing this script and realized that, I'd already passed on my text to the next person. For the second part of this sentence, I once again highlighted my interpretation of the subjects and objects. I decided that the third person prefix was still associated with the spider, and that the object of the verb is the text. I moved the postposition above in front of the noun it was modifying, put an article in front of the word text for some reason I don't remember, and reinterpreted not small as meaning big, but this left me with a not small question. What on earth does this mean? I mean, first off, I can't even tell what this big is supposed to be attached to. Maybe it modifies the verb, like, this spider really would see, except I don't know what really seeing would mean. I ended up reinterpreting small not at some point during the vibes part, but this is the final part of the actual glossing that I decided to do. The clause I ended up with after doing a bit of vibes was this. I am absolutely confident this is not what the original text was saying, but I'm even more confident in saying that my two brain cells couldn't have figured it out, even with all the time in the world. As such, especially given the time limit I had, I ended up with this as my best guess for what the first sentence meant. Or at least, that's what I thought it meant at the time. Now I think it may have been something more like this. Not a single sentence down the line was less agonizing or confusing for me. I should have asked questions. If I had known I could do that, I would have. Alas, for this crime, I am sure that everyone has suffered down the line. In our remaining time, I'll just go over a few of the other things that confused me. There's this one suffix, o, which is not defined anywhere in the torch. That's the thing I mentioned earlier. I kind of figured it was probably some sort of accusative plural, but to this day, I'm not sure. Actually, wait. I can just go ask George. Dear George Corley, oh Georgeous one, it is I, Ren from Channel Linguistics, here to ask of you a question of grave importance. You see, back when I got the torch, I failed to ask you what exactly the suffix o meant, as it was not listed anywhere on the torch as far as I am aware. I did not realize I could ask questions, as, alas, I had missed out on that part of the rules somehow. I'm now revising this script, and I have realized, far, far, far too late, that I can still ask you this question even now. And so I ask of you, George Corley of the Conlang Relay podcast, what might this suffix mean? Yours truly, Ren from Linguistics, from the channel Linguistics. P.S. I am recording myself typing this and including it in the video.
It seems my documentation has been incorrect for over a year and I never realized it. Is the nominative plural of nouns with hard vowels. I think the chart I included is incorrect on this.
Well, isn't that something? There's also this sentence, which involves a noun meaning to spin a spider web, as well as something being beside a spider web, which I ended up thinking translated to, the spider web by the spider web can spin a spider web, which is definitely wrong, and thus not what I ended up with after the vibes section. Not to mention that at the start of this sentence, there's a noun phrase that just means using the proper things, and you best believe me, I don't know what the proper things are. I'm not an expert on spiders. The second to last sentence is the only one I think I got correct. Of course, there's an actual marker on that last word meaning gnomic, which obviously means the other things I interpreted as meaning gnomic weren't. This evidently means basically everything else I translated had to be very wrong. Then there's the last sentence. I can't even explain this sentence. I want to share this one in particular because I was completely unable to parse any of it. I'm not even going to explain what any of this means, how I got this, what the hell you're looking at, because it won't help. I have no idea what's doing what in this sentence. What the hell is this? What the hell is this? It's probably not even that complicated. I might just be dumb. But what the hell is this? Okay, I've had enough of that. Let's move on to the actually important part, the translation into obligation. I'm not going to give away what the obligation itself means, since the little quirks and diversions introduced by it are going to be the focal point of my next collaborators video, and you should check their stuff out. I will, however, read it aloud for all of you, while also illustrating what I think was happening as though it were some sort of bizarre, nonsensical comic. Without further ado, Nu wette diesh rachiath I dhaleth, okithen tansochette im pesel usta eth. Gal nusuchlin bulum imena numer, ganus wette o wio ganus wettier. Gowachau, anachetem in numerem futurum diesh. Dugette diescho atir adachliem. Rutansethem nesur chasam ekun ketopse der numerelem okinge pechetalechem ushopim. The end. I'm going to keep this outro really brief since I think I'm probably above the time limit that I was given. If you want to see how things get even worse, watch the next part of this collab on the channel Conlangs. Thank you for checking out my part.